So this video will look at exporting a model out of Maya as an FBX file and bringing that into Unity. The way that I think the preference for exporting FBX files is to export the geometry only as an FBX file, and that way the textures are kind of self-contained image files. That way the textures are not embedded within the models, and it's just an easier way of editing in the long run as well. You know, if you want to edit a colour of a texture or slightly tweak it, you don't have to export the model again. Errors occur that way, and so this keeps it nice and streamlined for the teams. So this is the model, just a simple phone. As you can see, it's not got any textures on at the moment. So let's have a look at bringing the textures back, and then you can see what kind of model it is to export. Okay, so I'm just going to Control A, which brings up the attribute editor. You can see that the tab, there is a material applied, and generally, as you know already, textures come through the colour, the diffuse channel, and whenever you get that black little icon there, it means that there is an image file coming through. So let's find out. It must be in the wrong path. So let's click on this yellow icon and find the texture. I know it's in my desktop model, and here's the texture file there. So I'll just load it through, and as you can see, that's now popped up. Okay, so this is the file that I'm going to export. If I just press Control A again, before you export a model, make sure you delete the history, edit, delete by type history, and that will guarantee that the model is as kind of pure as it can be. There's not a big long history of your model. Make sure you name it meaningfully. This is a phone, and also before you export, if you modify freeze transformations, and that way you can guarantee that everything will zero out back to default. So freeze transformations, delete history, and there it's ready to export. Okay, so with the object selected, File, Export Selection, let's bring up the dialog box. This is where you choose the file type. At the moment it's FBX. It's in this list. You can see FBX down there, OBJ export, that kind of thing. FBX, export selection. I'm just going to temporarily put it in this model folder in my desktop and call it phone test. Save, and then this will bring up the FBX kind of options dialog or user interface. You've got things like geometry, animation, cameras, lights, embed media, so you can define what it is you're actually exporting. Generally for geometry you can keep that default. In terms of animation, we've not got any animation, it's a static model, so just make sure that that's turned off. And also, for all your objects, make sure that cameras are off and lights are off as well. With every object, we don't want its own camera and separate lights coming through, because that will just really confuse your Unity scene. So make sure cameras, lights are off. And this is the main thing. Make sure embed media is off as well. If embed media is on, the texture will be embedded as part of the FBX file. We don't want that, we want the texture file to be separate, so turn that off. Just for extra things under units, make sure automatic is turned off, and it should default to centimeters, which is what your Maya file should be, so make sure it stays at centimeters. And just as an extra thing, the axis conversion, we've got the up axis is Y, which is what Maya is. For things like 3D Studio Max and even Blender, I think the up axis is Z, which is a little bit strange. So Maya up axis is Y. click on export, and there we have it. So if I go to the desktop, let's have a look in the model folder, and you can see that the FBX file is there. This is the texture file that accompanies with it, and it's a separate texture file. Okay.